The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons. On today's show, we'll be talking about winter. Boy, we don't know, but it could be a cold one this year, and there are some people that might need a little bit of assistance in paying their energy bills, maybe their water and sewer bills, or they need to weatherize their home. Well, there are several programs that are available in Montana, and to see if you're eligible or what things they can pay for, we'll be talking about that, so stay tuned.
A decade of Montana fourth graders on Energy Share. When winter gets tough here in Montana, Lily Wallace knows who can help keep your home warm. Energy Share. That's right, says Livia Little. Energy Share wants to make sure that every Montanan stays warm, no matter how cold it gets outside. Thanks to Energy Share, we'll be cozy tonight. Energy Share is not a government program. It's neighbors helping neighbors who face energy emergencies the Montana way. Call or visit our website today. Energy Share is a good way to care.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Brian Lamore. I mentioned earlier that we were talking about weatherization, low-income heating bills, and possibly your water bills for this upcoming winter can possibly be partially or totally covered. We have some important programs that are offered through the state, and one of them is the LIHEAP program. Joining us today is Sherry Shepard, you're the DPHHS Intergovernmental Human Services Bureau Chief. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, now, we've heard the term of a program is LIHEAP, but now it's LIHEAP. Could you tell us what LIHEAP is and how it helps Montanans?
Okay. So LIHEAP, formerly known as LIHEAP, we've added the H in there, and LIHEAP or LIHEAP is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. So we've just added the home into the title. The LIHEAP program helps pay winter heating bills. The program starts October 1st and runs through April 30th. And we do have some changes in the program this year. We have, when you apply for LIHEAP, you're also applying for the Water Assistance Program and the Weatherization Assistance Program. We use your information and prioritize the amount of energy you use based on your amount of income and determine who would be eligible for the weatherization program. We also, with LIHEAP, if you're having difficulties with your furnace or your water heater, there's a potential that we could help replace or repair a furnace or a water heater. And then this year we're also paying arrearages. That's something new. We have some extra funds, and we'll pay arrearages up to $400 for the LIHEAP program and for the water program.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. That really helps an individual. But now, do you, say a person applies October 1st, does that then cover them for the up until April? Or if one was to apply in April, would it apply back to October 1st?
Yeah, good question. Yes, so we kind of split it out a little bit. The deliverable fuels, your propane, coal, wood, and fuel oil, those benefits can go back to July 1st. So it'll cover July 1st through April 30th. So if you're approved on April, the LIHEAP benefit will cover any charges all the way back to July 1st. And we do that because propane in the summer months is usually cheaper.
Yes.
And so it helps the applicants out a little bit. Natural gas and electric, those benefits can cover charges from October 1st till April 30th.
Okay, that's great. So now we have, let's say I apply in April, you're going to go back to July. I would have possibly paid those bills. I possibly am in arrearages. Now, do you pay the supplier of the energy? Do you pay the individual?
Yeah, so I'd say about 95% of the time the benefit goes directly to the LIHEAP fuel vendor, the primary heating vendor. And what they do is they apply the LIHEAP benefit first. So if an applicant or a recipient has paid the bills, say through October through December, and then they get their benefit in January, LIHEAP will cover October. We'll use LIHEAP first, and then once that is exhausted, then the credit that the applicant has on their account because of what they've paid during those months, then they'll start using that client credit. But we do ask the vendors to use the LIHEAP benefit first.
And kind of a first thought is that, does this apply to renters? Are they eligible for this program? Because sometimes it's confusing that utilities are included in your rental payment.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, renters and homeowners can apply both. So if you're a renter and your heat is included in the rent, you just submit rent receipts and we will reimburse you based on your paid rent receipts. And then there's another category. If your heating bill is not in your name, it's in somebody else's name, if you submit your paid energy receipts, we'll reimburse you based on your paid energy receipts.
Well, we went through a really hot summer this year. And does this include air conditioning costs?
It does not include air conditioning. Montana is considered a heating state, not a cooling state. So we can only help with heating assistance.
And do you have some general income guidelines for a family of one, family of two or more?
Yeah, we do have income guidelines, and they can be accessed on our website. We list all the income and resource guidelines. But just so you have a rough idea what the income guideline is, for a household of one, it's $28,136. And for a household of two, it's $36,793. We do have a category where if everyone in the household is on SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the household could be considered categorically eligible, meaning you would be eligible using the income that SNAP used to determine your eligibility. So we wouldn't have to verify your income and your resources. We would just take that information from your SNAP application.
From another resource that you have. Quickly, what about weatherization? How does that apply?
Weatherization, yes. So if you are eligible for LIHEAP, you're automatically eligible for weatherization. The income guidelines for weatherization is a little bit higher than it is for LIHEAP, so you may not be eligible for a fuel assistance benefit, but you could be eligible for weatherization assistance. So weatherization assistance is 200% of poverty, where LIHEAP is a little bit lower than that.
That's good. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for coming in. We've drawn to a close on this segment so quickly. Lots of great information. We have websites and telephone numbers that we've had up during this segment, and they can give you more resource information and help you determine your eligibility. But stay tuned. We got a lot more information in our next segment.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare Summary Notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, but my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about, winter in Montana and programs that can help individuals with their energy bills. One important one is Energy Share of Montana. They've been around for a very long time, and they've been helping Montanans all across the state. It's an important program, and we have the executive director, Rachel Haberman. Welcome to the show. Back to the show. It's great to have you here. Well, now, we hear a lot about Energy Share, but I always have an idea people really aren't sure. They hear about things, but they're not sure what they are. Mm-hmm. Define Energy Share for us, and how does it help Montanans?
Sure. So Energy Share is a private nonprofit organization. We've been around since 1983, and our primary purpose is to help Montanans who are facing no heat situations. Mm-hmm. And it's usually an unplanned, unknown circumstance that's coming up in their lives, and they just don't have the money in the bank to pay that bill to keep their heater lights on.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of a unexpected occurrence, and It's like, oh God, what are we going to do?
Right, right.
So how do people find out about Energy Share and our other programs that are available out there?
Well, hopefully through this show, yes. And then also in November there's information in the November utility bills. We have a website. We have public service announcements starting in early November that will run for about 3 months. But the primary way that people find out about Energy Share is actually through the utility companies. They get referred from utility companies because obviously they're calling their energy provider and saying, I'm having a hard time paying this bill. And so they usually refer people to Energy Share or LIHEAP.
That's great. Well, we just talked to the individual about LIHEAP, and now we're talking about Energy Share.
Right.
What are the differences, and what are the commonalities?
Yeah, good question. So both organizations help with home energy needs. Energy Share really focuses on those emergency situations. Mm-hmm. So someone might come up, they might get a past due notice or disconnect notice in the mail, or perhaps their propane tank is really low, and they can't pay it, and they're going, what am I going to do? So that's when they would apply for Energy Share. Sometimes those people have received LIHEAP, and but they just need additional help, and sometimes they don't qualify for LIHEAP. Mm-hmm. So we focus on those emergencies. We also provide assistance, usually not more than once every 5 years or so, depends on the situation. With LIHEAP, you can get it every year that you qualify for it. Mm-hmm. Then Energy Share looks at those individual circumstances. Our applications are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. With LIHEAP, they have their black and white guidelines that they need to have, and they go more according to income and things like that. Then Energy Share is privately funded, LIHEAP is federally funded.
Energy Share helps with deposits, and I think we might be one of the few organizations that does help with deposits. So if someone has maybe had their heat or light shut off and have been without power for a little while, and they need a deposit, then they can come to Energy Share. But you apply for both programs at the same offices, the Human Resource Development Councils across the state, and then both, like I said, both organizations help with home energy bills.
Great. So you apply through that's called the HRDC.
Right.
And we have probably one contact number probably rings into each of those offices, right?
Yeah, what people can do if they don't know where their HRDC is visit our website or call us at the numbers on the screen, and we will refer them to the right HRDC office.
Okay. So, you mentioned that you're basically a private sector and use private funds. If individuals would like to help you out, how do they do that? Because we always need donors.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. So there will be donation envelopes and pledge cards in the November utility bills. People can donate electronically. Just go to our website and click the Donate Now button. And then there's also an address on our website where people can just mail a check.
Okay. Well,
and we appreciate it.
You have a great program. How big is the demand for your program statewide? It's a changing economy and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Are you able to help everybody that does apply?
Yeah. We don't turn away very many people, which we're very thankful for. We help around an average of 2,500 families a year. The interesting thing this last year is that 31% of the households that we helped had at least one senior citizen living in them. And that was a huge jump. The year before was 26%. So I think that signifies inflation, energy prices much higher, and people, senior citizens living on fixed incomes, probably get LIHEAP, but it's just too much for them, and so they need Energy Share as well.
A little bit more, yeah. Well, now, I've heard a lot of different things about energy companies can shut you off from energy during the winter, and maybe they can't, maybe they can. Can you clear that up?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to talk about utility companies that are regulated by the Montana Public Service Commission. And so during the winter, those utilities can disconnect for non-pay if they get approval from the Public Service Commission, and this is true from November 1st to April 1st. So that's during the winter. Prior to asking the Public Service Commission for permission to disconnect, they need to send at least 2 notices to the customer. One of those notices will ask the customer if there are certain conditions that exist in the household. If there is a person 62 or older in the home, if someone is disabled, if the account holder has an income that's at or below federal poverty guidelines, or they're on some form of public assistance, then the utility company cannot disconnect them from November 1st to April 1st. But if the disconnect request is approved, then the utility will provide 2 more mailed notices and then either a door hanger or a phone call to the customer. There's plenty of opportunity for people to know that they're getting disconnected, and so they need to call and ask for help. It's hard to ask for help, but they need to call and get some help because help is here.
But ask. Now, Rachel, we've drawn to a close on this segment so quickly. Thank you so much for coming and for all that you do. I mean, you're really serving a lot of Montanans and helping them in times of need. And for our viewers, stay tuned. We have another program we'll be talking about in our 3rd segment. We'll be right back.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about energy and winter in Montana and how various organizations are helping to address individuals who are eligible meet their energy needs. In our next segment, we'll be talking about the government. We'll be talking about the Montana Electric Cooperative Association. Joining us today is Mark Lambrecht. You're the Director of Government Relations with that organization. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Brian. Really thrilled to be here.
Great. Well, let's start at the top. How is the Montana Electric Cooperatives Association, which is an energy provider, different than other energy providers in Montana?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. So the Montana Electric Cooperatives Association is a statewide organization representing the public policy interests of its 25 rural electric cooperative members throughout the state of Montana. They serve more than 400,000 Montanans across the state. And we also provide education and training assistance to the cooperatives and their members throughout the state of Montana. And some of the things that, and you asked about what's the difference between the investor-owned utilities and the cooperatives. So I'll take you back a long way. Back in the 1930s, fewer than 9 out of 10 rural homes in America were actually serviced by electricity. The investor-owned utilities didn't have an incentive to provide service to those rural areas. And so when President Roosevelt started working on a way to take care of that, he passed an executive order on rural electrification. Congress passed some legislation, and actually farmers and ranchers were the ones who went out there and connected distribution lines to their homes, and there were federal incentives to do some transmission lines. But the difference is, though, the investor-owned utilities such as Northwestern Energy and Montana Dakota Utilities, they're regulated by the Montana Public Service Commission because they do have that profit incentive. Mm-hmm. So rural electric cooperatives are nonprofit organizations owned by the members, and so because of that nonprofit model, it removes that profit incentive, and therefore the cooperatives are self-regulated in the interests of their members and as determined by their elected trustee members.
Oh, great. Well, we're talking today about energy programs that are available to individuals. We talked about the regulated ones. Now we're with you. And how does the cooperatives help address the needs of individuals who are having problems meeting their energy needs?
Mm-hmm. Our members are doing a lot. There's a number of things I'll talk about. Yeah. Number one, they make universal systems benefits contributions. More than 2 million of those are designated to help low-income members with bill assistance and weatherization, and also energy conservation at their homes. We also help connect members who are struggling with some of the other organizations that provide assistance, such as the Low Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program and Montana Energy Share. We work very closely with the Human Resource Development Corporations to make that connection. But we also have something unique, which is a prepayment option. And so that's where our members, the cooperatives will work with their members, help them understand what their typical energy uses is on a monthly basis and what their costs are with that, and then help them determine what's a reasonable amount for them to pay up front. And then it provides incentive for that member to work with the cooperative to understand ways that they can reduce that energy consumption through efficiency and conservation. And so it's a really, really great option that cooperatives use throughout the state.
That you can work with your members. Now, when we were talking in the last segment, there was some issues about and some confusion about can an electric or provider shut off their services to an individual or family during the winter. How is that different with cooperatives? Is it the same or?
It's different. So I know, Rachel Haberman from Energy Share, she described to you the situation with Montana Public Service Commission approval and not being regulated by the Public Service Commission. What happens with the cooperatives is each different cooperative establishes a set of rules and regulations for service interruption, and those are agreed to by the members and their elected boards of trustees. And so those rules are established, but I can tell you that that's the last possible option that a cooperative wants to get involved in. And if they do employ all these other options that I mentioned to you, such as prepayment, but definitely working with each individual member to avoid that situation at all cost. And connecting them to some of those other assistance programs.
So you can help them access the LIHEAP, the Energy Share, and other programs that are available because you participate, you're an energy provider. But now, everybody's talking about green energy. How are the cooperatives looking into that, or are they?
Oh, they are. It's been a really big push in recent years. All of the cooperatives are involved in renewable electricity generation, whether it's wind or hydropower, solar. There are some that are involved in biomass. We're really excited about some of the federal programs that are coming our way. There were two major pieces of legislation that were signed into law by the Biden administration this last year, the infrastructure law and also the Inflation Reduction Act, both of which provide direct funding or tax incentives to rural electric cooperatives to deploy renewable energy technologies or other efficient types of electricity generation. We're looking at opportunities for hardening the grid, making our transmission and distribution systems better. So there's a lot of work that's going on there. Really excited about some of the more unique opportunities. I'll give you one example. The Missoula Electric Cooperatives is involved in a community solar program. There are a lot of rural electric cooperatives that provide net metering operations, so that customers that are involved in small renewable generation can put that power back on the grid.
That's great, but we're running out of time. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here, and for our viewers for watching. Catch you next time.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.